Hello and welcome. I am going to add Claire into here. So Claire is going to join us for a little. And we are going to talk about functional dystonia. And we're going to talk about Claire's journey as she joined us for an intensive program here in California. And she's back home in Canada, and I'm so excited to see her. I had the great fortune to join in some of her sessions, and it was great. So I'm really excited to bring Claire on, and hopefully, I'm always like fingers crossed that our technology works. So I just sent the invite to Claire, and I'll introduce myself if we haven't met. My name is Julie Hirschberg. I am a neurologic physical therapist. I am the owner and founder of Re+active Therapy and Wellness. I'm based out of the Los Angeles area where we have two different clinics. And it looks like Claire is not able to join. I'm going to try this again. So Claire, let's see if we can get you on here. Yes, we can. I think this is going to happen. So every now and then we get to have someone join us live for an interview. So they've joined us for a program, typically an intensive program, which is a program where they come to Re+active for 2 to 8, maybe 10 weeks at a time. And they're working with our whole team, PT, OT, psychology, yoga therapy, our personal trainers as well, and really looking to make changes in improving the control of their symptoms, learning about their brain and body so that they can manage things on their own, but really make improvements and get back to their life. And I'm going to see here, Claire, if we can get you in here. It says you're unable to join, Claire. Let me try this again. One of the tricky things about Instagram, yay, Claire, you made it. Oh, and you're wearing your Re+active shirt.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. Claire, I was at the clinic today and everybody just wanted to say hello. Taylor and Kiana and Ava and Lincoln, and everybody just said, oh my gosh, you're going to see Claire. I'm so jealous. So you have a lot of admirers from our clinic, myself included, Claire. I had so much fun when you were here. I had so much fun meeting your friend while you were here. It was just really nice. So thank you for joining us to do a live interview. I'm going to kind of monitor the comments. So often we'll get questions and things like that. So I'll kind of take a look at that as we're going. But I know most folks want to hear from you and your story. So I wonder if you could share a little bit, however much you're comfortable with, from your story and kind of how you ended up at Re+active.
Okay. So in January of 2021, I got sick. I actually got COVID and I was down for about 3 weeks. Once I started feeling a little bit better, I kind of noticed that I'd got kind of like an ache, just a sore neck. So I was constantly kind of doing this and I just thought maybe, you know, I'd been in bed for a long time. Maybe I'd just lay funny or it was just stiff. It just got progressively worse as the year went on. And in November 2021, so 10 months later, I noticed I was sat in a meeting and I noticed that I kind of had to prop my head up from this side because it just kind of felt a little bit too heavy. And that kind of became the norm. Then I'd drive like this, I'd just propping the head up. And it did kind of get worse. But then in April of 2022, I had appendicitis. So kind of that put all this kind of thing on the back burner because I was in pain elsewhere. So it kind of So I didn't get the appendix removed until the July. So it was probably in the September I saw a neurologist, because this was kind of developing at a very fast rate at that point. The neurologist did various tests and told me that there was nothing wrong with me, to go on my way and just kind of get on with life. So that's what I did, until February of last year, when it became dangerous for me to drive. So I decided to take myself off the road. I went to the doctor. She signed me off work. At this point, the neck was kind of, you can see the neck still moves. The trunk, it was all down the left side, was moving. I was struggling with fatigue. I was just struggling with day-to-day life. I was eventually, my husband took me to the emergency room in July of last year, and I was in for a week, and they ran all the tests and diagnosed me with a functional neurological disorder, where they assigned me a physiotherapist, an occupational therapist, all the usual. So I started seeing them. I was on a cocktail of drugs while they tried to figure out if anything worked. And then I was taking off all the drugs and was kind of left to my own devices, really. My physiotherapist then sent me an email with a link to Re+active and said, hey, you should watch this, like research this. And that was kind of the first time I'd heard of Re+active and seen anything about Re+active. And then I started watching the videos, and I was like, oh, that kind of gave me just a little glimmer of hope and a little glimmer of, it's fixable. I can work and get this fixed. And at that point I was kind of in a black hole of, I don't think it was depression, but it was certainly escalating down that path of kind of losing hope. And but yeah, so that's how I got in touch with Re+active. And I thought at first that you would be able to cross, because I'm in Canada, that you would be able to, we could just do it all online. So when I first approached Re+active and they said they couldn't do that, I was like, oh, I don't know if I can be away from the family for 4 weeks. That's a long time. And then by October, I was like, no, I've got to do it. I've got to do it. And I think I watched one of the interviews that said, where I can't remember who you were talking to, but she said, take your health into your own hands and just don't even think about it, just do it. It's the best thing you'll ever do. And then we revisited, and that's how I came to Re+active.
And you joined us in California for 4 weeks in the winter.
Yeah.
And we had just a great time. It's interesting that you said that, because, since that time, we have found that we can actually provide services via telehealth internationally. But that's just been within the last 3 months or so.
Well, that's great news.
I know, it's a very good news. It's very good news.
Get to California to go. It's absolutely beautiful.
I was gonna say, you wouldn't have gotten washed up by a wave if you didn't come out here. So what you talked about a few things before you came. So you had given up driving, you had stopped working as well. How else was your life impacted at that time?
Well, everything just stopped. I stopped seeing people. I stopped, I could barely wash, barely dress myself without having to rest in between. My entire life became lying on the couch or lying in bed. That was all my life became, because I could do nothing else. I couldn't go grocery shopping. I just couldn't do anything. I was just not life. I was not engaged with the family. It was just me just lying on the couch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Off, as you can see.
Yeah. Well, and I know from chatting with you and working with you, one of the hardest things is sitting.
Yeah.
Still. right? And here you are, because I remember you were talking about FaceTiming your family, and here you are in an live interview sitting
Yeah.
still. And like, so this is like the peak kind of challenge level. So I do want to give you permission to move if you want to, Claire.
I'm pretty good. This is where I sit to FaceTime people now.
Okay.
I eat meals, we sit and we play cards at the table, or we're cross-legged on the floor so that I'm learning to. So yeah, I'm pretty good at sitting for the most.
That's great. Well, for everybody that doesn't know, Claire is very competitive. And when the cards came out, Claire was winning. There was no doubt about that.
That was something I learned about myself, how competitive I actually am.
Really? You didn't necessarily know that about yourself?
No, I've never considered myself particularly competitive. Maybe competitive with myself, but I was always the board game person. Oh, it's the taking part that counts. And then Lincoln kind of created a monster in me where, so it's all fault.
We'll blame Lincoln, your physical therapist.
By her part, because she would say when we're doing the blaze pods, and she'd be like, oh, you're doing great, 10 seconds left, 10 seconds. And I'll be like, oh no, you know I've got to try and beat the last score.
Yes, so I think our team might have just uncovered a hidden competitor in there. I saw it, Claire. I saw it. You brought out my inner competitor. I was like, I need to get into this game. There's an energy in the competition, right? That makes it. There's like a fun and playfulness to that too.
Yeah.
So you talked about kind of where you were before, which was, like you said, like life kind of stopped and you were in bed. Somebody is asking, what particularly were your symptoms? I know you described it a little bit, but maybe you could share that a little bit more, what symptoms you were having.
So at my worst, it's the movement in the neck, constant movement, constant in the trunk. That became, even lying down, sitting down, everything was moving. I was breathless, fatigued was one of the big ones. Very overwhelmed very quickly. Let me think, what other? Brain fog, speech. I kind of developed, at the worst part, I kind of developed a few little vocal tics as well. At one point, I couldn't even sit. I'd be sitting like this. I couldn't even sit straight. So yeah, that's, and I'm sure there were more symptoms, but yeah, it's hard to recall how bad I was until when I first started Re+active, and I'm like, oh, was I really that bad?
Right. I'm going to share a little play on words that you'll love. Mike Studer, good friend and brilliant physical therapist. Actually, he teaches a lot of other therapists about this idea of bringing games like you love. So he made up a word, Claire, for you. Gamification plus Claire is clarification.
Oh, yeah.
And all of my like neuro nerd heart is just bursting right now. So but you describe symptoms there, Claire, that are so common in FND, and this is why people are asking. You have this uncontrolled movement and the fatigue and the brain fog and even vocal symptoms. It's usually not just one symptom. And I think that's helpful to share. Now, share, where are you now symptom wise, and just what is life like for you?
So life is a hell of a lot better than it was. I'm still a work in progress. We still have good days, we still have bad days. Recognizing the bad days, recognizing now and giving myself permission to rest, and recognizing when I need to rest is a big, huge for me. But I can, when I first came out of hospital, I was having to have people come in and prepare meals, help me shower, help me dress. I can do all that by myself now. And I can do it in shower, dressed, eat breakfast before I need to lie down. Whereas before it would be fastest shower in the world, lie down, dress super fast. Balance is getting a little bit better now. So now I can put socks on without having to sit down. I can do it standing up. So it's really little things that just you don't realise how frustrating it is when you can't put your socks on standing up or you can't do something in a hurry. So now I'm less fatigued. My mental clarity is phenomenal. And the biggest thing, and I think just I've got the positive mentalities back. I've always been kind of a cup half full, but I was kind of, that cup was kind of draining for the first time in my entire life, but that's back now. It's back to, it's over half full now. And the biggest thing that most people have seen, because now I'm back to socialising and seeing friends, and the biggest thing that they've seen in me is they all said it's in the eyes. You've got the twinkle back in your eye. You've got that twinkle, but it's back. So that's really nice to hear too.
It sure is. I only know Twinkle Claire, I guess, because, and I think
they all call me Claw there.
I'm so lucky to know you, Claire. Honestly, we all are. And so there have been some major changes, and I wonder if you could speak to, you had the whole team working with you, and I wonder if you can just share some of the favorite things maybe that you did with each different type of therapy or things that you learned.
Yeah, so with each one, so Kimberly, my psychologist, she kind of helped me she kind of helped to develop the more vulnerable side in me. So she helped me kind of open up a little bit more and create boundaries and be okay with not being okay. I no longer apologise when I cry, so good thing now I just cry if I cry, because usually you say, "Oh, I'm sorry," but now it's just Jenna. Oh, we did some so fabulous crafts. And my thing with Jenna is she used to say, I'd say, "Can I do this?" And she'd say, "Claire, there's no rules." And I'd be like, "Oh, I love no rules." So I've taken rules into my everyday life, and I channel my inner Jenna and say, "No, there's the beauty in the imperfection," and I love that. So I try to be more free-spirited and less perfectionist and live by no rules. So Andrea, oh, she was just fabulous. She helped me breathe. She helped me decompress. She gave me some horrific stretches that just felt fabulous after the event. During the event, it was it was difficult, but afterwards I just felt fantastic. And of course, Ava and Lincoln, well, they were just, everything was just fun. It was just, shall we try this? Shall we try that? And I'm like, yeah. They just told me, you need to tell us when you need a break. And I'm like, I'm not here to take a break. I'm here to work. I'm here to get well. Let's do it.
You were
fun. So much fun. I would do it all again in a heartbeat.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that. And I should clarify for folks that don't know our team. So you Jenna's the occupational therapist. So that's who Claire mentioned, kind of looking at these everyday occupations, which are just those things that fill your life. So it's like you were doing crafts and things, but with that, I should say, with a side of like anti-perfectionism, like let's go without rules,
yeah.
right? With
and the spoons. How many spoons does it take to do this? Well, we need a rest. So now everything's figured out in spoons, and yeah.
that is fabulous. Yeah, I was gonna say what I love with working with our OT so much is that understanding the underlying pieces of what's bringing you fatigue and how to manage that. And that sounds like that was a pretty big outcome of the program for you, was getting your energy back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's great. And then you mentioned Andrea, who's our yoga therapist too, which most folks have never worked with a yoga therapist. And I loved how you described what she brought for you. And what I always feel like Andrea brings this like real mind body approach that's really unique.
And she'll work on the fly too. So if something's not working, she'll switch it up, and she'll, so she kind of, I mean, I know that everyone does that there, but she kind of, oh, you're a little bit more flexible, so we can do this. Or we'll try this today because you said your hip's sore, so we're going to do this. And so, I still do them now. And I still think of Andrea, and I still curse her a little bit when it's a big stretch, but then afterwards I feel great. So
we're in it for the after reward. That is fabulous. Now I know, because I was in the session with Ava, so with physical therapy, and there was a lot that I could see she was working and setting up the environment to really help at times where you had full control of your movement. And I'm curious, what did you learn about yourself and your brain and your body, where you find control? Like what are some of those things that help bring you control of your symptoms?
So if I can, the visual was a huge one for me. So tracking things. So even something as silly as tracking a playing card as I'm walking, or doing this, or tracking my hands, or boxing and tracking is huge, huge, huge. Things that I can do at speed. Just something as silly as passing the ball between your legs as you're walking, kind of just silly things like that really do give me control. And even now, like, I'll work with Warren, my husband. We bought blaze pods because that was my absolute favourite thing to do. So our blaze pods, and we blaze pod every other night, and we're inventing new things to do.
I love that. There's so much that you could do with the blaze pod, right?
Crazy, yeah. Well, we can't get out too much. I mean, it's milder now, but because my balance isn't great, I'm a little bit nervous of being out walking in the ice and things like that. So the variable walking is a little bit of a challenge, but I do skip around the island, or I'll pass the ball through the legs and things like that. But it's a tricky one because I can't get outside as much as I'd like to right now. Yeah, kind of try and be inventive.
Yeah, I love the skipping around the island. What I'm hearing from you is how much you have taken kind of these building blocks of what we found while you were there for, I think was it about a month? Was it 4 weeks, Claire?
4 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, which is not a whole lot of time, but it is when you're away from home, I know. But you took this and like you're running with it. You're running with the understanding of what's happening in your brain and body, and you keep coming up with new things.
Yeah,
I love.
That's another. I think it was Jenna and Kimberly were big on the self-talk. So now every night before I go to bed, in my mind I'm saying, what a great day, and tomorrow's going to be even better. And then I wake up and I say in my brain, well, remember yesterday? Well, today's going to be even better. So it's all that self-talk and trying to stop the negative thoughts coming in, even on a bad day, which is very difficult to train your brain to do when you're so self-critical. I don't know, everyone's self-critical, so it is difficult. But I have to keep kind of doing the mantra of, look how great it was. Look how great you do.
Yeah. You bring up a good point. I think the world as a whole is fairly self-critical. Maybe there's a few folks in the world that are not, but that mindset can be self-defeating sometimes. So you kind of found the power of that for yourself.
It's a work in progress. I try every day and just keep trying to switch the negative into positives, just as I catch them.
As you catch them. That's so mindful. Now, there are folks definitely asking lots of questions here. So, um, somebody is asking for you to just, did you make any changes in your diet for this at all?
I try to eat as well as I can. I take turmeric every day. I take magnesium every day. I've just I just had some blood work done and I'm low in iron, so now I'm taking iron too. But I try and eat a pretty fairly well balanced diet anyways. I used to make a drink called, I might start making it again actually, it's called jamu, and I think it's an Indonesian cure-all, and it's got turmeric, ginger, lemon, all this really good stuff, and you just take a shot a day. So I try and be as natural as possible where I can, and we're trying to move towards chemical free. So because I know that can interfere with brain and things like that. So yeah, but as for changing the diet, not really. If I fancy something nice, then I'm going to have it because life's too short.
Good for you. Good for you. Yeah, I hear that. I hear that in you. I think sometimes we can actually become a little perfectionistic in our diet as well. So you have really taken that, you know, measured approach of like, these are healthy things. I'm going to try to do them, but you might have a cookie too because,
Yeah,
like,
and a glass, not a glass of wine.
yeah, exactly. Now, other folks are asking too. This is a common question I think that comes up, especially when you get movements in the neck like you've experienced that are dystonia-like. It can be a challenging diagnosis for a doctor to make. Now, you had a neurologist that pretty definitively diagnosed you with FND, but was there some uncertainty at some point, Claire, about your diagnosis?
Yeah, with the second neurologist when I was in hospital, well, it wasn't one, I was under one neurologist, but there was actually a team that was kind of working with me. I was very fortunate that the University of Alberta was the hospital that I was in, and some of the best neurologists are in that university, thank goodness. So we had movement disorder specialists on the team. So they were trying to rule out autoimmune diseases. So I had a PET scan, an MRI scan, a lumbar puncture. They sent it to the Mayo Clinic to get tested there. So I had so many tests. And then when I came out, I think I was on I was on probably 10 pills a day, and the neurologist put me onto steroids, and I was up to 30 pills a day. I was taking 12 and a half pills of steroids twice a day. By day 2, that kind of plunged me straight into a deep depression. We went back to emerge, but he wanted me to do it for the week. And then when we went back to see, and then of course after the week, then I had withdrawals because I was taking such a high dose. So I had a week of withdrawal. So it was the worst 2 weeks ever. But when we went back to see him, he said if it was an autoimmune disorder or autoimmune disease, he told me that I would have felt euphoric on these steroids. And because I had it had the opposite effect, he said, so now we can say that it's a functional neurological disorder. So
Okay.
FND, my life. And I was like, okay, so what do we take for that? And he says, no, I'm taking you off all the pills. We don't take a pill. And I said, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, everything has a pill now. You can cure a pill. I don't understand.
Right. Yeah. And well, it sounds like, though, unlike a lot of people, you did get referred to therapy, which is kind of like the pill for a functional neurologic disorder. So many kudos to that neurologist or their team for sending you.
My physio, I still see her now. And I know that Ava sent my discharge sheets to her. And I think they did a little face-to-face chat. But she, from the get-go, she kind of is learning about FND. She wanted to come with me when I first told her where I was, so that she could kind of learn everything. Like, just wanted to be a sponge, and she was like, you need to come back so you can teach me so that I can help other people. Like, she really wants to learn. And I know that the week that I found out that I'd kind of confirmed that I was coming out to California, I saw her a few days later, and she said, oh, I've just reached out to Re+active and asked a question about you. She said, but it's all confidential. And I said, oh, it doesn't need to be. I'm going there in December. And she was like, oh, what? Oh, okay. She'd already reached out to try and get information of how she could help me. So she started me on the journey with the Blaze pods and the different things.
Great. And
to just kind of learn everything she can. She's phenomenal.
What a brilliant therapist. I mean, that's how I started too. I just wanted to learn. We're not born knowing these things, and they don't teach them in school either. So what a brilliant therapist to keep learning. And I tell people I learn from every single person I'm in contact with. So she's learning from you. And actually, another therapist who's on here today asked, what advice would you give to other clinicians? She actually asked, what would you wish for clinicians and other healthcare workers to know about FND? And that's such a great question.
I'm very fortunate with my physiotherapist that she was willing to learn, and she wants to know, and she already had she's part of Brain Bite, so she's learning a lot from you guys. But for other clinicians to take it seriously, to not kind of dismiss. It's very kind of disheartening when you know your symptoms are real and you're being told that there's nothing we can do, there's nothing wrong, and you live in very real symptoms, and so I think just take it seriously, just learn what you can, ask lots of questions, and just keep learning, really.
Yeah. Like I'm learning every single day, but I love that, take it seriously is an important lesson, because I think, if you grew up in the time of early understanding of this, like I did, it wasn't really taken seriously. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that did a lot of disservice for people.
Well, the first neurologist I saw a year before I saw my second one, if he'd have taken me seriously, I would have been that much farther ahead at this point. Because it just progressing and kept getting worse. So I just think if he'd have took me seriously right there and then how much further ahead would I have been, and how much further ahead could everyone else be? When people say, yeah, I know, I understand, maybe there's nothing I can do, but let me see what we can do.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're much like the rest of us too, where you're curious and you're like, well, let's figure this out. We can do this. And that spirit had brought you a lot of play at Re+active, because you were open to many things. And in fact, somebody's asking about the Blaze pods, because we keep talking about them. I wonder if you can describe them for this person. What's a Blaze pod?
Pods are little pods and they light up. They connect to an app on your phone, and then they light up. So what I do is, one of the ones I would be on all fours, and then they would flash. One would flash green. They just flash randomly, and then so what I do is I cross body I cross my right to the left and the left to the right, and I'm on all fours, and then I'll just see how many that I can get, and then thanks to Lincoln and Ava, now I have to beat my time the score every single time. Yeah, but they're just a lot of fun, and I can do it in a downward dog position. You can do it standing. Ava had them lined up with a hockey stick, and I was kind of watching getting the ball around. That kept the head movement still. And there's all different combinations. We've done it where 3 colours will come up. So right hand is, you hit the right hand if it's yellow, left hand if it's orange, clap if it's purple. There's just lots of, it's kind of like a modern day whack-a-mole, I guess.
Yeah, whack-a-mole, Simon Says.
Yeah,
It's programmable, and you can, it's like infinite
yeah.
options.
One of the ones we use mainly are create your own. So we just create our own. Yeah.
Great. I love, love, love how creative you are. Now I'm curious too, Claire, how has where you were before to where you are now, how has this affected home and family? It sounds like you and Warren are playing blaze pods now and cards, but
Yeah.
what has changed for you?
So now I just feel like I'm more active with the family. So now I can go grocery shopping. Not every time. Some days I'm kind of think, you know what? Now I can recognise, yeah, I can't deal with that today, so I'm not going to do that. So Warren goes by himself. But I can, when it's not icy, when it's not too cold, I go out with them and take the dog for a walk, which is something that I couldn't do before. I sit at the meal. We sit at the table for every single meal, and now I'm back to joining them for every single meal. I'll sit at the table, and even if I'm by myself, I make sure I sit at the table to eat the meal, or sit at the island to eat the meal. So I'm getting used to sitting and doing things. What else do I do? Just being able to get up and make a cup of tea without throwing scalding hot water down myself, which was a very real thing. It was like a toddler, like Warren or Joe would make me a cup of tea, but you had to fill it kind of that far up because I was shaking so bad. You know, I don't have to drink through a straw every time I take it. So just all the little things, being able to tie my own shoelaces without being without falling over. Yeah,
Yeah.
all things.
Yeah, things big and small. And somebody else asked too, with this movement, did it affect your joints at all or any of your sensations in your body?
Yeah, it did. My entire back was sore.
Mm.
Yoga helped that phenomenally. Whenever I get a sore back now, I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't do yoga yesterday. Maybe I'll go do yoga this morning. So that really helps. My shoulders were sore. My neck is still sore. I used to get very dizzy because I was constantly doing this. Like, although it's moving now, it used to be super aggressive. Oh, even at night now, if we take the dog a walk and it's dark, I can still get a little bit off balance. That's still a big area that we're working on. But for the most part, I can walk. I mean, I used to walk with a cane, and I don't walk with a cane at all now. So the movements and sensations it was just, yeah, everything was painful. Hips were painful, back was painful, head's painful, neck's painful. Like, it was just pain everywhere. And then
Yeah.
the interesting part was, as I started working with Andrea, as I started working with Ava and Lincoln, the pains kind of moved around as different muscle groups were starting to work again. It was like, well, it doesn't hurt there now, but now it hurts there. It never hurt there before, but that's because there wasn't working before, and now, so it's kind of, it was very bizarre to, but now, yeah, I know I haven't done yoga in a few days when the back starts to get a little bit stiff, and I'm like, need to go get the yoga on.
There you go.
And of course, as soon as I get into yoga, the cats join me and they're lying underneath me, and I'm, I have to have an audience.
Yes, isn't that so true? So true. And I think also you didn't mention it, but you never had Botox or any like injections with the muscle contractions, did you?
No,
No.
I to my neurologist in regards to that, and he said that he didn't like doing that until, not that he didn't like doing it. He said he could do it, but he wanted to see where we could get to before going down that path. And I wasn't
Yeah.
a fan of the idea of it. Had he recommended it, I would have tried it, but he didn't. He said, let's try a different path first. And I'm grateful that he did. So
yeah. Me too. And we have a few people asking kind of diagnosis questions, so I feel like I need to make another video all on the differences between an idiopathic or genetic or a Parkinsonian dystonia or a task specific dystonia versus a functional dystonia, because the Botox wouldn't really be indicated in a functional dystonia that has variability in it, because there's not just one muscle, it's many that might be contributing to it. So in fact, it probably would be contraindicated. So smart move on your doctor's part. But for everybody else asking about diagnosis, and what if you have two doctors that don't agree with diagnosis, I will do a special topic on this, because we could go really down a rabbit hole here. And I want to respect your time, Claire. So appreciate it. People, by the way, sharing in the comments how much they like your they said, I love that. Just a lot of comments about your attitude. You have an amazing attitude. And I will echo that as well. And by the way, F&D is not caused by a bad attitude, and I love folks that might also have a bad attitude. That's not the deal breaker in your journey here.
Say that Re+active played a huge part in this positive attitude. They really helped, kind of, by just making everything fun, and it just kind of it really lifts, it's an uplifting, and all the PTs when you're working, or all the OTs, they all know you before you know them, and they're like, oh, I saw you yesterday and you're doing fantastic, and it's like, oh, thanks, but you don't necessarily know who they are at that point.
Yeah, it's true. Our team kind of comes around and rallies for a person.
People that are also getting treatment, they're like, oh, good job, or watching what you're doing, and you're being silly, and it's making them laugh, or and it's just such a good atmosphere. So really, it's kudos to you guys that the positivity kind of spills into everyone else.
Oh, myself included. Well, and folks are saying too, love hearing your story. Thank you so much for sharing it. And Denise is saying, I love your willingness to do this for all of us who have dystonia and F&D. And I know when I was talking to you about this, you had mentioned that hearing from others or seeing others or just having some hope was the start of a process for you. And now you're sharing that with others. So thank you.
Reasons I wanted to do this, because I know that kind of when I was kind of at the darkest place, and then I watched an interview or I watched one of your videos, it would just kind of be like just that little slither of, oh, if they can get better, I can get better. If they can do that, I can do that. And it becomes such a huge thing in your brain that I literally would run around with my phone saying, look what these can do. They've got the same, or they're worse than me, or oh, I could be this well, and it's just that little bit that just that little seed that grows and grows, and it becomes this.
Well, that little seed has certainly grown so much, Claire, and impacted so many people, our whole team included. We just so enjoyed your presence at Re+active.
To be honest, Julie.
You can come back anytime, Claire.
You know what? I'm saving right now. And came with me for the few days. She's like, when are we going back to California? When are we going back to see everyone at Re+active?
Gosh, we had so much fun with her as well. I love when folks, their friends come to visit, family, dogs, whatever it is. You could bring your cats.
They would love that, actually.
So one of the questions that I like to ask, and we can end on this, what would you say to somebody who might be on the fence about doing a program like this? What would you share with them, Claire?
I would say, don't even hesitate. I would say, just do it. I would say, every day that you're living in any kind of discomfort, pain, any day that you're not starring in your own life is a day too long. So reactive can help you get back to starring in your own life, and it's not a day too soon. My only regret was that I didn't come in August, that I waited till that's my biggest regret, and that was just a couple of months. So I would say just do it. Just absolutely take your health into your own hands and just do it. It won't be a regret. It was not a regret for me.
And somebody asked on that note too, you asking about how long it was, and you were with us for 4 weeks, and it's been, when you went home around,
I went home right before Christmas.
That's what I thought, right around the holidays. So it's been just over a month as well.
Yeah. Feels like a lifetime ago, but it feels like yesterday all the same time.
Yeah. Well, and now you're doing, you're with your physio, and you're doing the, Clare Home special with your Blaze Pods, and that's really life, right? Life is where you live, and the ice and all of those factors. We don't have that in Southern California, actually. So we can't recreate that one for you, Clare. Oh, well, thank you so much, Clare, for taking this time, for sharing your story for so many people. I know I can see on here everybody's so thankful for you sharing, and we will continue to stay in touch. And our whole team will be over here cheering you on every step of the way.
They're the best team. I miss them.
we definitely miss you. So, Clare, have a wonderful evening, and thanks again.
And you too, and thank you.
All right. Okay. Bye.
Bye.